Welcome everyone to Politics 365. I'm your host, Shahryar Afshar. I'm joined today with Supervisor Ahsha Safaí in San Francisco. He's been a supervisor in the city of San Francisco, City County, San Francisco for 7-8 years, it looks like, and now running for mayor of San Francisco. Such an important city, such a diverse city in California, and a rich cultural history and heritage. And of course, many Iranian American, successful Bay Area tech gurus and entrepreneurs. Really makes the community proud to not only see an Iranian American, an American Iranian, depending on who you ask, really having a strong sense of public service, which is very important to me personally, and of course to our community. But to see the growth of Ahsha Safaí in San Francisco is such a great honor to see you prosper in this field and to see you serve the community in such an important role. I wanted to make this time to talk with you more and learn about your background and how you got interested in public service, and then talk about what you've done as a supervisor, and of course, what you hope to do for the city of San Francisco. So welcome, Ahsha, to Politics 365.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. It's been quite a journey. I like to tell people a little bit about my journey before I get into why I'm running for mayor. So probably like many of the listeners and viewers, I was born in Iran in the 70s. And a lot of what we're seeing in the world over there right now, religious extremism, political turmoil, that was my earliest beginning. I remember, the revolution beginning, gunshots in the streets, and then it was a violent takeover. It was no longer safe for my family to be there. We were bicultural. My mom's American, my dad's Iranian. So we made the decision to leave, like many families, because it was no longer safe. And I had family members that were killed. My Amu, my uncle, was a general in the Shah's army, along with almost 1,000 other plus generals. He was assassinated. So we had to leave. And unfortunately, the revolution tore my family apart. I was raised by a single mom for some time. And being an immigrant to this country, being raised by a single mom, one thing you know about them is that they fight for what they are trying to achieve. And so every step of the way, I've worked really hard to get to the next opportunity. Put myself through school, ended up going to Northeastern University for undergrad, had a double major of political science and African American studies, went to go work in President Bill Clinton's White House, working with Native Americans, came back to Cambridge, worked for a math literacy organization, teaching middle school children pre-algebraic concepts to get them ready for a proper college level math track, ready to take algebra by the 8th grade. Because as many people understand, not everyone is ready to do that. Not everyone is prepared. And a lot of times in our public schools, they're not given that same opportunity. So we worked really hard, focusing on predominantly African-American, Latino students, giving them the opportunity. Then went on to the graduate school, went to MIT, got a master's in urban studies and city planning, the School of Architecture and Planning. Met a tremendous amount of friends, but met my wife to be there. And we came back to her hometown here in San Francisco. So I've been here for almost half my life, the last 24 years. Started under Mayor Willie Brown, working in public housing, working with gang and youth intervention work. Went to go work for Mayor Gavin Newsom as a deputy department head, first on his campaign. So it was 20 years ago. I texted the governor the other day to say, it was 20 years ago I was working on your campaign for mayor. Here I am running for mayor, following in your footsteps. But worked for Gavin Newsom as a deputy department head, went to go work doing cleaning and greening and putting young people formerly incarcerated, and formerly homeless to work. Then ran for office, didn't win that time, which was a blessing because I was able to start my own small business, working for almost a decade, start my family, had my daughter, had my son, and worked for almost a decade, and then ran for office again, worked with organized labor, worked with small business owners and builders, and really was helping people to thrive and learn how to kind of interact with and make government work better for them, essentially, whether it was building a home, starting a business, working with working with nonprofits, helping communities. Then I ran for office again in 2016 and won, and I've been on the board for the last 7.5 years. On the budget committee, was the president of the retirement fund, a $33 billion fund. I have worked on multiple pieces of legislation and led a process of really bringing people together. That is the theme of my campaign. We want and love this city and want this city to thrive and survive again. But I don't love what the city has become. We've really lost our way in a lot of ways. And so my 3 top issues are dealing with the public safety, dealing with the corruption that is, infested City Hall, and dealing with the pervasive, homelessness and all the issues that are pertain to that, mental health, drug addiction. And so really what we have in San Francisco is we have the resources. We have a $14.6 billion budget. We just don't have strong leadership in the mayor's office. We've somehow lost the ability to manage, lead, and hold accountable all the different city levers that make this city work. So San Francisco is going really, really bifurcated. It's become a city for extremely wealthy and extremely low income, and those in the middle, working class, middle class families. So San Francisco can be a city that works for everyone, a city that everyone can thrive in. We've lost our way on that. And all of those 3 issues, the crime, public safety, corruption, homelessness, have added to an environment where we're not managing our resources well. We're not making San Francisco welcome for everyone. We're not ensuring that families can live and thrive here. So I have ideas and proposals for all 3. Happy to get into them, but believe with my experience that began going to graduate school at MIT, and then for the last 24 years, I prepared for this moment. I'm ready for this job day one, and San Franciscans want change, and they want someone that can come in and ready to take on the task and really help us lead our city in a new direction.
Thank you for that explanation. What a great journey. And as I'm listening to you, I can just feel so many of us have had the same experience leaving Iran, the circumstances, the damage that it did to our families, to our country, to our psyche, and to this day, as you're watching what's going on. And it's so hurtful, especially when we live in such an amazing free democracy and we're watching such issues going on. 2 quick questions I have about your background, then I'll get into the homeless question, because I'm very interested to hear about your ideas about how to deal with homelessness in San Francisco. Is when you came here as a child, really just probably less than 10, did you grow up with a sense of civic duty? Did you feel like I was lucky enough to get out, so now I owe this country something? Because you could have gone into stay in business, but you chose public service, it seems.
No, you know what? I can't say. I came to the US when I was 6, just about to turn 6 years old. So I don't necessarily feel like that was something that right away became part of my psyche. But I will say, having a grandmother that really emphasized giving to others, thinking about others first, and how we can improve others' conditions and not just our own. And I think that's one of the differences. There's a lot of people that think about personal attainment, personal wealth, personal advancement, how well they can do, and instead of how well we can do as a society, how well we can do as a community. And if you have resources, if you have doors that can open that others can't get open, how are you going to help everyone else advance? And so that was something that was instilled in me in a young age. And a lot of that I attribute to my mother, to my grandmother, and just some of the early principles of just really thinking about giving rather than receiving. And so it probably wasn't until I was in college that I really started to catch the bug of public service. I went to a phenomenal school, Northeastern University, that emphasizes cooperative education. So they want you to go out and begin to work in your field of study. And so I had the opportunity then to go work for a local city councilor, work in the Massachusetts legislature, work in the White House. So by the time I graduated, I had a bit of experience that was getting me going, came back, worked on some local campaigns, and saw what it could be. You can balance that with your family and then giving back and trying to make San Fran, whatever society you're living in. When I applied to MIT, I knew at that point I wanted to be a mayor. I wrote on my essay, my entrance essay, coming to your program to learn. I'm a student of cities. I love cities. I want to learn how to manage and run a city better, effectively. I want to be a mayor one day. When I met when I came to San Francisco and I landed here, I knew immediately I want to be the mayor of this city. So I've been putting all my effort and energy into that.
That's a great focus, and props to your family for raising such a good protege, so the community can benefit. And you mentioned cities. I love cities too. I was worked for cities for 25 years, and one thing the city manager told me once is he likes cities over states and federal government because cities are the closest layer of government to the people. They're the ones that touch people the most as you go
That's
up
right.
in government, right? In bureaucracy. So I learned a lot too, and I've loved working for cities. But just like I'm in San Diego, you're in San Francisco, we have a homeless problem here. You have a homeless problem there, and it gets a lot of press, not positive press, because it's such a beautiful city, and there's a lot of press about closed businesses and shops, and you mentioned public safety, which is interwoven a little bit to the homeless issue. What do you hope to achieve as mayor to deal with the homeless issue in San Francisco?
So San Francisco, as I said, has the resources, but hasn't had the management, leadership, and accountability. So let me tell you what I mean. Right now, we have close to 1,000 beds sitting empty that we could get people off the streets into permanent supportive housing. We have hundreds of private developers that have set aside affordable units that are sitting empty. Not because we don't have people that are on the streets that are homeless or that are working or low-income families that need the affordable housing. We have a process where the mayor has not asserted her authority over the departments to get them to do their job better, remove the bureaucracy, get out of the way, make things move more efficiently and quicker. And so I'll give you an example. Last year on the budget committee, we had a nonprofit come in and say, we want to renew our lease for a shelter on the Embarcadero near the ballpark, near the San Francisco Giants ballpark. Very nice. It's called a navigation center. It's a little bit of a step up from a shelter. And so we said, oh, it's a $15 million contract. How many beds do you have there? What capacity do you have? They said 190 bed capacity. I said, wonderful. What's your daily census? They said 110. And we were like, whoa, wait a minute. What's the delta? Why are you down 80? Why are you not at full capacity? And so some of the department stands up and says, we're having a supply chain issue, supervisor. We can't get additional 80 mattresses. So I hold my phone up and I say, I will call Mancini Sleep World right now. You'll have those 80 mattresses on Friday. That is an unacceptable answer. So you have a department that started out in 2015-16 at $110 million. It has grown now to $770 million. But people look out on the streets and say, things have gotten worse, not better. So we ran a ballot measure 18 months ago, November 2022, that said, we're going to bring accountability, oversight, and infuse metrics into this department. So I can tell you with certainty now how many people are on the streets that are in tent encampments. Just about 9 months ago, it was around 500. It's down now to 370. So we're making some progress, but we still have over 370 encampments. That's 2 or more tents in the city, while we have hundreds of shelter beds, hundreds of permanent supportive housing, and hundreds of affordable housing units sitting empty. We then said we're going to do mandatory audits for all the money that goes toward these nonprofit providers. We started the nonprofit audits have started last spring. They've carried into now this year for a year. Multiple nonprofits. The very first one was selling vouchers to friends and family. So remember I said homelessness and corruption? So the corruption has overlapped with this contracting process, both to nonprofits and to large contractors. They had to call in the FBI because they were selling vouchers to friends and family. Subsequently, another nonprofit was audited. They weren't spending the money right. Just the other day, they weren't even paying their employees. Then they were doing contracts. They were submitting invoices for work that was never performed. They're now cut off as a vendor. Another shelter provider wasn't getting people in, wasn't managing. So there's this process now. We have to weed out the bad actors. We have to bring accountability in, and we have to say, you do this well, you're going to keep doing this. You don't do this well, we're taking that away and we're going to give it to somebody else. We have to manage the system better, manage those resources. And that's something that I started and will continue as mayor. But we also have to realize this homelessness crisis is not just about having enough housing and beds. It's really a mental health and a drug addiction issue. So we have to shift much of our resources into drug-free housing. We have to,
That's okay.
we have to shift some of our resources into new models, whether it's abstinence-based, sober living, drug-free housing. We have to expand the number of med psych beds that we have. We have the ability now with Proposition 1 that was just passed with the voters to sign and expand more long-term recovery facilities with the state. San Francisco has the money. The state now is going to start spending on the beds. We need to be first in line to get the contracts, to get the people off the streets into the mental health care that they need. We have to fully implement what we called mental health SF, which would be 24-hour access to mental health services in our city. We need to fully fund that. There's a whole host of steps that we can take. But one of the biggest things that I'm proposing to deal with this crisis on the street, when I going back to the 370 tents and people living on the streets, we have to start to think differently. We have to think outside the box. And some of that is expanding the number of the tiny homes that we have. We have public land in the city and outside of county where we can build some of these tiny home communities. We have to know on a biannual basis how many people are homeless, how many people are on the streets, and then we need 60% of that number in shelter beds. So right now we don't have that capacity. We can do it with tiny homes. We can expand the amount of shelter. And then once we've done that in certain neighborhoods, across the city, where there's a lot of encampments, we build more of those tiny homes and then say, we're prioritizing the people that were in this neighborhood, but we're not going to let any more encampments. We're not going to let any more people be on the streets anymore because we've built the capacity.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Supervisor Ahsha Safaí, for that. I think, look, we're all on the same page. The public wants more accountability from their government. And like you laid out, this problem is not insurmountable. It's solvable with some more efficient management. I think everyone's rooting for you. San Diego's in the same boat. We, as you know, we have always had the same type of issue. Sunny cities typically get more homeless issues than
Right,
Midwest
wetter
cities,
weather, yeah.
and that is what it is. But thank you so much for your time. I wish you great success in your campaign for mayor, and thank you for really being a model for Iranian Americans to follow your footsteps in public service.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.